Paul, we've escaped from the office for a couple of minutes just to have a little bit of a chat, I was hoping for a beer, but all I've been offered is a water. Now, listen, we get asked a lot, actually, by people. Journalism, PR, which one's the best thing to do? What should I go into? Now, I've only been working PR, actually, for a couple of months, so it's still quite new for me. But I know you are very experienced, but luckily in both areas, because you used to be a journo, but now you work in PR.
True.
So I thought, let's just have a little bit of a chat, a bit of a catch-up about your experiences in both and any advice that you might give to people that were thinking about going into one of those professions.
Fair enough,
So you are currently Director of Content at Fourth Day.
I am.
What does that mean?
Director of Content. So it's within a PR agency. I look after the creation of content, the quality of the content, how we use that content, the strategy behind it, wherever it goes out into media publications or social media, whether it's for search engines, email, etc.
But you used to be a journo, so
I did,
why did you want to go into journalism originally, back in the day when you were
journalism, when I was a young pup? So actually my first step was I went into media sales for a media publication for the MEM Media Group. Truth be known, I always had my eye on journalism. But I got in through the back door a little bit because I got to know the people in the newspaper and asked for work experience, as you do, and ended up doing my training and going into journalism.
So what was it that you said you always had it in the back of your head that you wanted to go into journalism? What was it about it that you were attracted by?
I think it's definitely an exciting career choice. I really liked storytelling, funnily enough. And delving in and finding the truth in things, and I think there's romantic notions around journalism. I wanted to get to the heart of the matter and find out what's going on, and then serve my community. Whatever community.
Nice. So how was the reality different then from the romanticised version of what you thought it was going to be like?
A lot of it, I think there's a mixture. So there's a lot of mundane elements to it, wherever it's sitting at a council planning meeting and listening to councillors work they've went through a long list of extensions, etc. That is quite dull. And when you first start off, it's a lot of writing up people's press releases and things like that. It was for me back in the day. But then there's also the very exciting elements to it. So I quite liked the odd murder case at the Crown Court.
Nice.
Or I liked chasing around after certain stories. If you had to get points of view from the people that really matter, trying to get them on record saying these things when they might not particularly want to talk about it. That was quite fun. There was a kind of thrill of the chase there, and it was kind of it was good. I enjoyed it.
So how long did you do that for then?
I was in journalism for the best part of 10 years. As part of a decade. Various different roles. So I started off as a district reporter on the local newspaper, Stockport Express it was.
Nice.
And went my way up to news editor, went on to be business reporter for the Manchester Evening News, ended up being freelance technology specialist.
Okay, so what was the driver then? What was the impetus for coming away from journalism? What was it that made you think?
So at the time when I was moving away from it, there was a lot of job cuts in journalism. Print journalism was going downhill. It's not dead, but it was felt like it had its time. There was obviously online publications were growing, more niche publications. You could see a lot of money. I mean, I came from the advertising side, so I could relate to the money being drained out of the print publications and couldn't quite see how online was going to work. You didn't have. I mean, I live in Manchester, so there was at the time you didn't have Media City around, which you do now. So the idea of going into radio and TV didn't really cross my mind too much. It was a big choice of whether I moved down to London. Now it's not so much the case in Manchester. You've got big online publications like Lad Bible, for example, or the BBC, ITV are all really big here now. But at the time, I kind of decided I wanted to move on, try new things, learn different skill sets, which I felt like I wasn't doing so much of anymore in journalism. and it just seemed like a better, from a career progression, increased salary, etc. I was thinking about getting married and having kids at the time, so it just seemed like there's more opportunities in the marketing PR side of things.
Cool. So what was the next step then? So what did you do after that? So did you start working for somebody else, or?
Well, I actually got offered a job in a PR firm just at the time when I was considering my future. I jumped at it, jumped before looking really, and that wasn't quite right for me. That job went on reflection. So decided to go freelance and sell my services, kind of writing content for people and being a freelance journalist at the same time. So I was kind of a hybrid approach to it, but then went down the content marketing side of stuff before joining forces with a PR firm. Yeah.
So you touched on content marketing there.
Yeah.
How do you think that what you do now maybe differs from that kind of pure content marketing?
Well, I think it was more a meeting in the middle between your content marketing and PR. So I think PR has embraced a lot more content and exploring the ways that content, rather traditional PR would be your media relations and your networking, etc. And finding how to placing things in newspapers, but there is a middle ground, that digital middle ground of search engines, email, social media, and what I was doing needed more of a some strategic thinking behind how content was used, and I think PR was moving in that direction as well. So we kind of met in the middle, really.
Is there anything that you missed now? So you've been doing this for about 10 years, is that right?
Coming up to 10
Yeah,
years.
So anything you missed from the world of journalism that you can't feel like is replicated in PR?
I mean, I did enjoy the newsroom atmosphere. It was quite tense at times. Everyone's working to a clear deadline. If you didn't hit that deadline, then the newspaper didn't go out. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of team camaraderie to get these stories done. And it was quite bolshy, kind of
quite
aggressive.
Cutthroat as well. So like,
no, not necessarily with each other. I mean, some people would obviously be quite competitive because they wanted to work on the best stories. I mean, that's there's an element of that. I mean, my job ended up being the news editor, so I had 9-10 reporters, managing them and trying to make sure each one was working on the type of stories that they wanted to work on, because that made sense for me, it made sense for them, and then it became I don't know, balancing what people's wants were and needs were in that environment. But it was fine. Can get tense at times when everybody's trying to do the best they possibly can do, you know. And things are going against them, but apart from that, yeah.
Generally speaking then, if you were kind of talking to your 21-year-old self or advising somebody who was at that stage and thinking about going into one of these careers, what do you think are some of the differences and skills then that you need for journalism versus PR? Oh,
well, the big difference is account management. In journalism, who is your client? Your client is whatever community you're serving, and there might be an element of we need to satisfy the salespeople to make sure we're putting out stuff that's compelling for that community because they're all trying to sell advertising, etc. But you don't necessarily have to. You're not front facing with the client. You don't need to keep them happy. In fact, exactly the opposite. Quite often, when you're getting stories out of people, you can be far more pushing, even aggressive, to get the story that you want. So the big contrast when you do go into marketing or PR and you're dealing with clients in an agency setting is you do need to mind your manners a little bit.
Yeah.
That's something, if you've worked in journalism a long time, you make that switch.
Yeah.
You soon learn that you can't just sit back and have someone explain themselves to you because they're actually paying for your time.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference there.
Yeah. Would you ever go back then to journalism?
Would I ever go back to journalism? Well, you never rule anything out in life, but I personally can't see it in the near or medium term. I'm working in an area now where I get to tell stories. I get to tell compelling stories about some really interesting areas of technology. I enjoy that. But not only that, I get to tell those stories in different ways because you're looking at different channels. It's not just a print publication anymore. You're doing things for search engines, you're doing things for social media as I said before, email, online publications. The world of journalism is changing, and trying to understand that and how best to place your clients in there to get their messages out. It's very interesting. There's a lot to learn, so I can't see myself moving anytime soon.
So predictions then for the next 10 years. What do you think might happen to the world of PR, content marketing?
Content, constant evolution. I think you've seen over the last, in 10, 20 years I've been around, so much has changed, and it will continue to change. I think a majority of the stuff that we still do work on is written content, but I think you'll slowly see, and you've already seen, but even more so, you'll see a lot more visual content, a lot more audio, podcasts, etc. The type of content change and how it's used. We don't know what. When it comes to video, YouTube's probably the biggest thing now. I don't know what the biggest thing for podcasts will be in future, but things may change. Social media may change. Something else may come along. You don't know, but I definitely can see much more visual content and more content people can listen to.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you've got the tools to enable people to listen and interact with that, they will prefer to in many ways. It's harder to read something when you're driving than it is to listen to it. So there's different ways you can exploit different content if the platforms are there for them, and then platforms are being created all the time.
And I think that's illegal, isn't it? I like the idea of reading a book at the wheel. Paul, thank you so much. This was really sage advice from you. Thank you very much indeed. Come on. Beer. You get a beer? Beer? No? That was good. Thank you.